Hey guys, and welcome to r/short scary stories. It has been a while. Apologies for this. I've been doing a lot of gaming, a lot of adulting, and yeah, just trying to get certain things from my channel up and running off the ground. I've been working with quite a few people now, some old school friends, you know who you are, and the current squad and guests like Ryan, who's not part of the team, but you know, he's just a guy that likes to sit in and talk about spooky things. You know what I'm saying? That's the guy. So we're planning a lot of things, and hopefully, I think it's December 4th or December 6th. I think it's 6th. We're in the UK, we should be coming out of lockdown, although there are a lot of rumours that it probably won't happen until next March now, but well, we move and we carry on. So hopefully on December 6th, when that rolls around, we'll be planning our first ghost adventure, and I think we're going to call it the Spooky Wookies, because that's a running theme on the podcast anyway. So anyway, let's get straight into the stories. Now the first one is on the Facebook group which I created called Creepy Stories, and it is by a user from Reddit who I read a lot of his things when I was doing creepypastas, and he started to dip his toe into the short scary story side of things. So go check out Thousand Thorns on Reddit. I'll leave a link in the description. And yeah, let's get straight into it. This one's called Zoes Mirror. Zoe used to love looking at herself in the mirror on her wall. She would steal Mum's lipstick and put some on and laugh. It was messy, but it was fun. Mum would always come home and smack her hand and make her wash it off. Then Mum would hide it somewhere else, knowing Zoe would eventually find it again. It was something of a little game. Mum was never angry about it, and Zoe loved her for that. That and a lot of other things too. She was a young girl who had no idea what she would do without her mother. Then again, what little girl would know? And yet, she didn't know how to tell her mother what was happening. How could she explain that she was finding it hard to sleep or focus on anything, because her mirror had started speaking to her? She was only 10 years old, but she fully understood how ridiculous it would sound, even to Mum. She could hear it whispering, even during the day, but at night it became so loud she couldn't sleep. At first, she had no idea whose voice was speaking. She couldn't tell if it was male or female, young or old. It was as if there were 100 voices in there, all trying to dominate each other. One of the things that worried her most was the fact that her mother never seemed to hear them. There were many times where Mum had been in the room with her and the loud voices, but she never once reacted to them. When it reached the point where Zoe couldn't imagine it getting any worse, it did. The voices in the mirror had gone quiet, all but one. And the most terrifying thing about that, the voice that remained was her own. She was forced to endure being whispered to and yelled at by her own voice. It said horrible things to her and about Mum. One night, Zoe's horror was pushed over the edge when out of the corner of her eye, she saw a movement in the mirror. Her own reflection stood there, smiling at her with her own smile. It was hers, but it had a hint of malice that Zoe herself had never once had. Zoe was deeply afraid, but she was also angry. She was angry that this thing, whatever it was, had come along and decided to upset her life. She hated this thing in the mirror with her voice and her smile. She felt it was high time she went and told Mum. She went to her door and yanked it open. Her breath was sucked out of her in an instant. Standing in her doorway, dangerously close to fainting, Zoe was rocked by a powerful wind. It roared in her face, shrieking in her ears, much stronger and higher pitched than her own terrified screams. Outside her door, as far and wide as she could see, there was a raging abyss, black as the darkest night, with strange yellow lights flickering far off somewhere in the whirling chaos, hundreds of them circling around. The howling, forceful wind threatened to pull Zoe right in. With all the strength she could muster, Zoe managed to shut her door, and when she did, everything was strangely silent again, except for the ringing in her ears. She made a frightened squeak, but her heart leapt with joy when she heard Mum calling her to get ready for school. Right then, a tender soul shattered deep inside when she whirred around to the sound of her mother's voice. There, inside the mirror, her mother was leaving the room with Zoes Reflection, and she couldn't hear any of the real Zoe's panicked, confused screams. And just before they closed the door, the thing from the mirror turned around and smiled Zoe's smile. Okay, really good. Really good. Love Thousand Thorns. Love the twist at the end, You just know, if you've been on the channel for a while, you know that I love Thousand Thorns story writing. You know that I'm biased when it comes to him. Just the creepypastas, I had to do every single one because they were all so equally brilliant. And this one, once again, even though it's a short story, is smashed it. It's a 5 out of 5 from me. I don't even think it's a bias thing. It's genuinely like a 5 out of 5. You think that she's managed to stop herself getting pulled into the abyss, and she turns around and oh no, it's happened. It's just great. Bravo. Brava. Our next story is brought to us by The Juices, and this one's called She's a Snake. My ex-girlfriend used to go through my phone as I slept. When I'd call her out on it, she'd begin crying and accuse me of hiding something from her. That should have been my first warning. 2 months later, I noticed that her phone seemed to be constantly vibrating, and she seemed just a little too happy to see the messages she was reading. I asked her about it, and she told me I was being jealous and needy, and it was unattractive. That should have been my second warning. A month after that, I found a used condom in the bathroom trash can. It wasn't mine. I asked her about it, and she said she had no explanation for me, except that I needed to stop worrying about everything. That should have been my third warning. There were so many warnings, and yet I saw none of them. Maybe I just didn't want to see them. I was blinded by my love for her, and it took me having to walk in on her and her side piece going at it in my bed for me to see the light. Even as I cried and screamed at her, she snapped and told me that it was embarrassing that it had taken me so long to notice. If I loved her more, maybe I would have noticed sooner. That was the final warning. But after the breakup, I couldn't help feeling just a little guilty. My own clouded judgment just couldn't paint myself as the victim. My friends told me that she was a snake, and I shouldn't go back. My mother told me that she was a snake, and she had never really liked her anyway. Even my 10-year-old sister told me she was a snake, and had always been rude to her when I wasn't watching. But I just couldn't make myself believe it. She wasn't a snake to me. She was still the same loving human that I wanted more than anything, and so I sent the dreaded "you up" text. An hour later, I was sitting in her room, crying, and I finally saw it. I saw who she really was. As she writhed around on the floor with her arms and legs hacked off to bloody stumps, I could finally see it. She was a snake. That is really good, and it kind of hits home. Like, there's a lot of sort of personal experiences that fit just perfectly in here. Obviously, I've never hacked anyone, well, that you know. No, I haven't. I've never hacked anyone's arms and legs off just for him to be a snake, but mother never liked her anyway. 10-year-old sister. I think my sister was 14 when I went through a similar thing. She was rude to her when I wasn't watching, you know. So many warning signs, and you just get told it's all in your head. You know, it does ring true. I think that's why it's such a good story, because obviously this person's probably experienced this sort of thing. So, you know, I feel bad for you, because I've been there too. But you know what? That's a 5 out of 5. If I could, no, I probably still wouldn't. But it's a fun thing to imagine right now. So I'm giving that one a 5 out of 5. Our final story is by Reddit user Brugalug. Just quite a cool name. I like it. And this one's called Susan's Guests. The unmistakable click of the front door latching shut jolted Susan from her half-dreaming state. She jerked upright and peered over the back of her overstuffed sofa. "Hello?" she challenged. "Who is it?" No answer. Did she leave the door unlocked? Of course she did. She could never lock the thing these days, no matter how hard she tried to jostle it into place. "Hello?" No reply. Susan drew herself onto her knees and glanced in the direction of Marley's room. The door was closed, as she had left it. It was the wind, she told herself. Susan was just settling into the sofa when she heard footsteps clacking across the kitchen floor, directly behind her. Her heart plummeted into her stomach. "Hello?" she croaked. The footsteps continued unabated, passing nonchalantly by the kitchen counter, moving toward Marley's door. There was no one to be seen. Susan whined, "Who are you? Please go away." Barely had she spoken when the back door opened and shut. More footsteps made their way up the hall, approaching Susan from that direction, as the front door did the same as the back. More footsteps sounded in the kitchen. Then came the sound of unintelligible babbling voices from the kitchen, living room, and near Marley's bedroom. "Leave us alone," Susan moaned. She chucked the television remote control toward one particularly noisy group near the kitchen. The device whizzed through the air and shattered against the wall, but didn't solve her problem. Rather, the voices grew more intense in their babbling. As she watched in terror, Susan saw the impression of a human footprint form in the carpet outside of Marley's door, followed by another. The bedroom door swung slowly inward. "No!" she screamed, flying across the short space between the living room and bedroom. She stumbled and crashed onto the carpet, ramming her head into the doorframe with a loud thunk. "You can't have her," Sarah declared forcefully to her unseen guests. "This is my house." There was again no reply. A rectangular wooden table emerged from the bedroom door, as if floating through the air. Why is there a table in Marley's room? Susan wondered. She peeked inside, confused to see a storage room instead of a nursery. The table settled onto the living room carpet. Candles were lit and lights went out. The voices were momentarily clear, then all fell silent. Slowly, Susan began to see misty forms take shape around the table of some whom she recognized. Her sister, her best friend, an aunt, neighbours and a stranger. The forms took seats at the table as Susan watched in horror, shaking. Faintly but clearly, the stranger said, "Susan, we're your loving friends and family, and have called this seance to help your spirit move on to the afterlife. This is no longer your house. You can't bring Marley back from that horrific accident. If you will speak with us, give us a sign." Sobbing, Susan rapped the table twice. Ooh, good story, good perspective. You know, it's good. I think the film The Others is very relatable to this, and I did enjoy that film. I'm sure it's called The Others with Nicole Kidman in it, where they end up being the ghosts. Blah blah blah. Sorry if I just ruined the film for you, but you know, it's been out about 20 years now, so you've got no excuses. But yeah, I really did like the twist at the end. I kind of saw it coming when the table was brought in. Why is there a table in the storage room? But you know, it was still a really good twist. Home invasion to start with, very tense, very scary, and then turns out, you know, you are the scary thing. Ooh. It's great. I'm going to give that one a 4 out of 5. So we've had 2 5s and a 4. Do you know what? I'm going to give this one a 5 because it's got different levels to it. Different levels. So this one's getting a 5 too. So we've got 3 5s. We've got a 15 out of 15. Woo! Anime, wow, please. And yeah, hope you enjoyed that. So the next video that will be out will be the Sleepy Talk podcast with Ryan and Stephen, I think, and maybe James if he's joining. I'm not sure. I don't think I've organised this week's very well, but we've got Ryan and Steve on, and we're going to be going over 50 spooky questions. So a little fun sort of Q&A thing for you. So, right. I'll stop rambling. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you really want to. If you're already subscribed, then I know you comment anyway, so you know, we'll have a chat in the comment section. And don't forget to join the Discord. Link in the description. Take care.